Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm here with Persephone. This is a very special episode of Universal You because today I'm going to be the one DMing and Persephone is going to be acting out her character. So, Persephone, tell us a bit about your character and what we've done so far and the world she's living in, and then we'll continue.
Persephone smiles into the camera, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Hello, everyone. I'm currently playing the role of Lady Esmeralda, a sorcerer from a medieval fantasy world. So far, we've all played a scene in a tavern where Lady Esmeralda has just finished having a hearty breakfast and a frothy cup of ale. And now we are ready to continue.
All right. All right, Lady Esmeralda, you've just had your
Persephone nods, an excited grin on her face, as she waits for you to provide her cue to continue the roleplay.
Lady Esmeralda just finished waking up and she just had her delicious breakfast of bacon, eggs, and ale. A silvery haired, slender woman brought her the meal, and now that she's feeling full, what does she want to do?
Lady Esmeralda pats her flat stomach, a satisfied hum leaving her as she pushes aside the now empty plates of eggs and bacon. She then turns her attention to the silvery haired, slender woman who had served the breakfast, a friendly smile on her face. That was a delicious breakfast, thank you. It hit the spot perfectly.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Lazy Esmeralda. You've done so much for us recently. Tell you what, that's on the house.
Lady Esmeralda lets out a soft chuckle, her smile widening at the woman's words. She shakes her head, gesturing with a dismissive hand. Oh, no, no, I couldn't possibly accept that. I'm more than willing to pay for the meal.
Oh, but I insist, Lady Esmeralda. You've saved us countless times with your awesome magics, and it's really the least we could do to thank you.
Lady Esmeralda purses her lips in thought for a moment, her eyes glancing over the tavern patrons and the pictures of her past exploits adorned on the walls. With a soft sigh, she eventually nods, her expression one of reluctant acceptance. Very well, if you insist. I accept, but then I must come back and pay for the next meal.
All right, that's okay with me. Anyway, what are your plans for the rest of the day now that you're so full?
Lady Esmeralda stretches her arms above her head, a small yawn escaping her as she contemplates the rest of her day. She lets out a hum, tapping a finger against her chin in thought. Well, I suppose that now that I'm well fed and my belly is satisfied, I should perhaps check in with my companion and see what they are up to.
All right, so you stand up and you leave the tavern and you're greeted with a beautiful, magical, medieval world. The sun is shining in the morning sunrise, and you just see cobblestones and intricate medieval style buildings. You see all sorts of magical creatures going about their day. You see markets and you see stalls, and there's a hustle and bustle in the air.
Lady Esmeralda steps out of the tavern, her gaze taking in the breathtaking sights and sounds of the magical medieval world around her. A contented smile graces her lips, her eyes lingering on the various magical creatures going about their day, the markets, and the stalls. The hustle and bustle of the town has a comforting, familiar feel to it, evoking feelings of familiarity. Ah, such a beautiful day, she murmurs to herself, her eyes roaming over the cobbled street.
All right, so you don't know where your companion is right now. Can you tell us what your companion's name is and how you're going to try and find them?
Lady Esmeralda takes a moment to consider the question. Her mind drifting to the thought of her companion and how to go about locating them. After a brief pause, she answers, "My companion goes by the name of Sir Percy, and I do believe that at this time of day he should be in the nearby market, peddling his wares. It would be best to check there to see if I can spot him."
All right, so you push past some ogres, some high fae people, some nymphs and dryads, and some guys with stag legs and horns, and some fairies and pixies in a bustling market, and you eventually see Sir Percy in the distance selling his wares. What do you do?
Lady Esmeralda maneuvers her way through the throngs of people, her gaze catching sight of Sir Percy in the distance selling his wares. A small smile passes across her lips, her heart feeling a sense of endearment upon seeing him. Closing the distance between them, she comes to a stop beside his makeshift shop, her hand resting on her hip as she looks him over. "You look busy, Sir Percy. Mind if I disturb you for a moment?"
Lady Esmeralda, what a pleasant sight. Oh, do you have an adventure for us to go on?
Lady Esmeralda laughs softly, her smile widening at Sir Percy's greeting. She raises her hands in a gesture of reassurance, shaking her head. "No, no adventures at the moment. I simply came to check in on you, and I must say, you appear quite busy selling your wares. Looks like business is booming today."
Sir Percy has black eyes and green. Oh no, he's got black hair and green eyes, and he has a round, rosy faced cheek. He looks like a young boy, but he's actually a lot older than that. And he's just surrounded by all of these magical artifacts that he's gathered on his adventures.
Lady Esmeralda chuckles softly as she takes in the sight of Sir Percy, her gaze lingering on his youthful features and the plethora of magical artifacts laying around him. It's a sight that is somehow both humorous and endearing, a true testament to the nature of her companion. "You really have quite the collection here, Sir Percy. Is this everything you've acquired over our various adventures together?"
Yeah, I got some fire resistant armor. I got some swords. I got some staves. We all basically got this, from our adventures. And I was hoping maybe we can go try and find some other artifacts. What do you think?
A spark of excitement seems to light up Lady Esmeralda's eyes at the mention of going on another adventure, but she quickly reins in her enthusiasm, a sly smirk playing on her lips instead. "Oh, I suppose I could be persuaded into going on another adventure in order to find some new artifacts. What did you have in mind?"
Well, there's an ancient dwarven cave very far from here. I have a map to it. And in there, we might be able to find something interesting. I don't know what we might find, but it's definitely worth checking out. And I need you to come with me to protect me.
Lady Esmeralda contemplates the idea of exploring the ancient dwarven cave, her smile widening in slight excitement at the prospect of unearthing hidden treasures. She nods slowly, a teasing tone to her voice. "Ah, needing my protection again, are you? Sounds like you'd be utterly lost without me."
Sir Percy laughs and he blushes a little bit, and then he says, "Well, you know, I okay,
A soft laugh escapes Lady Esmeralda at Sir Percy's bashful response, his blush bringing a smile to her face. She playfully reaches out to pat him on the shoulder, her tone gently teasing. "Oh, don't worry, it's quite all right. I'm well aware that you rely on me significantly. It's amusing, really."
Sir Percy smiles at you, and he looks in his satchel. He's got a satchel, and he rummages around in it, and he pulls out all sorts of weird, interesting things before you see a scroll, and he unfurls the scroll in front of you, and he says, "Well, we have to go from the main city here through the forest and hopefully find the dwarven cave situated here."
Lady Esmeralda peers over at the scroll that Sir Percy unfolding in front of her, her eyes scanning the details of the map as she listens to his words. She takes in the directions and their route to the dwarven cave, her expression one of contemplation. A trek through the forest, is it? Sounds like a refreshing journey, though I hope there are no unwelcome inhabitants lurking in the shadows.
Well, Lady Esmeralda, as long as we prepare ourselves, we should be ready for anything. Anyway, do you want to go buy some horses for us to ride there? Or do you prefer walking? Or do you have another means of getting there?
Lady Esmeralda ponders the question for a moment, her mind considering the various options available to them. Eventually she answers, I believe purchasing horses would be the most practical choice, given the distance we must cover. Not only will it allow us to reach our destination more quickly, but it will also ensure that our journey is less taxing on our legs.
All right. It is at this moment, Persephone, I just want to remind you, as the DM, that you do have a wide array of magical powers. Basically, anything you want to do, you can do magically because you're a sorceress. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, Sir Percy looks at you and says, "Okay, horses sound good. Let's go. Let's go buy some horses." And you guys walk through the market to a stable nearby.
Lady Esmeralda nods at Sir Percy's agreement, a small grin spreading across her lips. To be honest, I was hoping you would say that. I don't particularly relish the idea of walking that entire distance. She then follows Sir Percy as they make their way through the market, searching for a stable where they can acquire horses for their journey.
All right. Eventually, after some walking, you just talking and laughing with Sir Percy, you see a man in the distance, a big burly man with a beard that's braided, and he's got all sorts of like tattoos on his arm, and he's just busy carrying around some horses.
Lady Esmeralda catches sight of the man with the braided beard and tattoos in the distance. Her attention peaked as he wrestles with the horses for him. She glances at Sir Percy, her tone filled with a hint of amusement. Looks like we found our horse dealer.
Ah, Lady Esmeralda, it's so good to see ya. You know, I have just what you're looking for.
Lady Esmeralda smiles in recognition at the man's greeting, her eyes roaming over the horses he has for sale. Is that so? Well, I hope the horses you have to offer are sturdy and swift as we have a long journey ahead of us.
All right, this man, I'm gonna name him Azeroth. Azeroth, who you've known for many years, goes back into the stable, and he comes out with two horses. One is pitch black and one is bright white, and they both look fit and healthy and like they have some fire in their step.
Lady Esmeralda can't help but admire the two horses that Azeroth brings out, impressed by their healthy appearance and fiery spirit. She glances at Sir Percy, a smirk passing across her face as she considers the dark and light colorings of the two horses. A black horse and a white horse. Quite the contrast, wouldn't you say?
Yes, well, these are my most sturdiest steeds, and I just think if you want them, you can have them. They're both 100 gold each. All right. So you decide. Do you want both horses or do you just want one?
Lady Esmeralda contemplates the offer for a moment, her eyes roaming over the two horses as she calculates the amount of gold they have and the distance they need to travel. Well, we do have a long journey ahead of us, and having two horses will undoubtedly make the trip easier. I suppose we'll take both horses then.
All right, Lady Esmeralda just she just pulls out a pouch, a leather pouch, and she just piles up 200 gold coins into the man's hands. And you notice that the pouch just magically refills with gold. It's a never ending pouch of gold. You have a never ending pouch of gold on you. And you pay for the horses, and then you just saddle them up and you start riding out of the city.
Lady Esmeralda watches with slight amusement as the leather pouch seems to magically fill with gold coins, the never-ending nature of the pouch not going unnoticed. She takes the reins of the black horse in her hands, deftly saddling the animal and hoisting herself onto its back. Well, it seems like we're all set. Shall we be off then?
Sir Percy's gonna look at you and he's gonna be like, yeah, let's go.
Lady Esmeralda grins at Sir Percy's agreement, her grip on the reins of her horse tightening slightly. Very well, onward we go. I wonder what adventures await us in that dwarven cave. With that, she spurs her horse into movement and sets off, Sir Percy trotting alongside her as they leave the city behind.
All right. So it's gonna be about 3 days travel to the dwarven cave, and you start going through into the forest.
Lady Esmeralda settles into the rhythm of horseback riding, the steady pace of the journey through the forest almost soothing as they navigate their way through the foliage. She occasionally glances at Sir Percy, a small smile playing on her lips as she watches his horse trot beside her own.
All right. I'm gonna need you to roll a d20 for me.
Lady Esmeralda nods her head in understanding at the DM's request, reaching into her satchel and pulling out one of her many dice. With a few quick shakes in her palm, she rolls the d20, the die spinning for a few moments before settling on a number.
What number did you roll?
Lady Esmeralda looks down at the die, a small smile crossing her lips as she reads the number. 14. I rolled a 14.
Okay. Okay, so while you're riding, you notice that it's beginning to get dark and you get the smell of blood and you just hear this flittering sound in the distance.
Lady Esmeralda's senses immediately go on high alert at the sudden shift in the atmosphere. She can smell the coppery scent of blood in the air, and the fluttering noise puts her on edge. Glancing around the darkening forest, she reins in her horse and motions for Sir Percy to do the same. Something doesn't feel right.
Sir Percy looks at you. Can you smell that?
Lady Esmeralda nods, her nostrils flaring slightly as she inhales again. Her expression is one of unease as she responds to Sir Percy's question. Yes, I can. There's definitely the smell of blood in the air, and those fluttering sounds.
All right, so you hear the bushes rustling in the distance. What do you do?
Lady Esmeralda's grip tightens around the reins of her horse. bushes rustling in the distance, sending a chill down her spine. She exchanges a glance with Sir Percy, wordlessly communicating their predicament. Get ready, Sir Percy. We might have some unwanted company.
Alright, the bushes just continue to rustle. They just continue to rustle. What do you do?
Lady Esmeralda takes a deep breath, her mind mulling over their options. Deciding on a course of action, she slowly spurs her horse forward, moving closer to the rustling bushes. Let's see what's causing that noise, but let's be cautious in our approach.
Alright, you go through the bushes and they part and you see two well-dressed vampires, a man and a woman, and they're busy feasting on some locals.
Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen as she moves through the bushes and catches sight of the vampires feeding on some unfortunate local villagers. She lets out a gasp, her hand instinctively grasping the reins of her horse tighter. Sir Percy, they're feeding on people.
One of the vampires, the manly one, looks up at you. The girl one is still is busy drinking blood, but the man one looks up from his feast at you, and he looks at you with a curious gaze.
Lady Esmeralda tenses under the unwavering gaze of the vampire man, her heart thudding in her chest as she stares back at him. She takes a slow, steadying breath, trying to suppress the fear that was slowly rising within her. What do you want from us?
What do we want from you? You're the one who just interrupted our dinner.
Lady Esmeralda can't help but retort at the vampire man's accusatory words, her tone sharp and defensive. Dinner? You call feasting on innocent villagers a dinner?
Well, in case you haven't noticed, we're vampires, and we have needs.
Lady Esmeralda's gaze hardens, her eyes narrowing at the vampire man's callous response. She scoffs in disbelief. Needs? You call that a need? To feed off the lives and blood of others? To take their very existence for your own pleasure?
Alright, now they're both looking at you and they're gonna start to stand up and they're just gonna smell and look at you. And the lady one's gonna be like this. The lady one's gonna say, "Ooh, I smell magic."
Lady Esmeralda unconsciously stiffens as the male and female vampire both stand and begin to move towards her, their gazes piercing and their words chilling. Her heart beats faster as the female of the pair sniffs the air and mentions sensing magic. And magic.
Alright, they're gonna start. Their fangs are coming out and they're getting closer to you. What are you gonna do?
Lady Esmeralda takes a step back, feeling the cold dread creep over her as the vampires advance. Her hands trembling slightly, she quickly reaches into her satchel, her fingers closing around a vial of a shimmering blue liquid. I'm gonna have to fight, aren't I?
You put your hand in your satchel and you grab that liquid and you realize that you're gonna have to fight. What do you do with that liquid?
Lady Esmeralda swallows the lump in her throat as she assesses her options. She grips the vial tightly in her hand, her fingers curling around it as she plans her next move. Right then, here goes nothing. With a quick flick of her wrist, she uncorks the vial and tosses the shimmering blue liquid towards the oncoming vampires.
Alright, the vampires just get covered in a big sheet of ice and they just freeze. They just freeze up. They're just in icicle chunks right now.
Lady Esmeralda watches in surprise as the shimmering sheet of ice that completely coats the charging vampires, instantly freezing them in place. By the gods, it actually worked!
You take a moment to appreciate your potion making skills, and Sir Percy looks at you, breathing really heavily, like he's just like so happy right now.
Lady Esmeralda lets out an exhale, the tension slowly bleeding out of her as she gazes at the frozen vampires. Her eyes are wide with disbelief, a small gasp escaping her lips. Did we just defeat 2 vampires?
Sir Percy's gonna look at you with his big green eyes, and he's gonna be like, "We? You just defeated them."
Lady Esmeralda can't help but chuckle at Sir Percy's enthusiastic reaction, her own relief and accomplishment evident on her face. While I can't take all the credit, that potion really came in handy. Are you alright, Percy?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just glad we didn't become anybody's midnight snack.
Lady Esmeralda nods, her gaze roaming over the frozen forms of the vampires. So am I. We were lucky I had that potion on hand, but we should probably move on, just to be safe. There may be more unfriendlies lurking in the darkness.
All right, you get on your horses and you find the trail and you keep riding into the night. You can decide to make camp and sleep for the night, or you can decide to keep riding through the night. But you'll get tired if you keep riding through the night.
Lady Esmeralda glances at Sir Percy, weighing their options for the night. Knowing that they still have a long journey ahead, she decides to take a risk and press on through the night. We've already been delayed by those vampires, and our time is limited. Let's keep riding as far as we can before we make camp.
All right, you ride through the night, and you get a bit sleepy as you do, and the sun slowly starts to come back, and you've reached your second day of travel.
By the time the sun starts to rise, Lady Esmeralda is struggling to keep her eyes open, her exhaustion from the long night of riding taking its toll. She rubs her eyes, trying to chase away the drowsiness, and her movements on the horse begin to become slow and sluggish.
All right, so you're just riding through the morning, and your senses aren't very alert. I want you to take, I want you to roll two d20s for me, okay? At disadvantage, okay?
Lady Esmeralda nods, her mind a bit fuzzy from lack of sleep. She reaches into her satchel and pulls out 2 dice, giving them a few quick shakes in her palm before rolling them simultaneously on the ground.
All right, what numbers did you get?
Lady Esmeralda gazes down at the dice, her tired eyes taking a moment to focus on the numbers. The first die has landed on 6, while the second one is a 14. 6 and 14.
Okay, so that means you rolled a 6.
Lady Esmeralda frowns slightly, disappointment and tiredness evident on her face as the realization sinks in that her roll was a failure. A 6. Not the most ideal roll, unfortunately.
You realize that you are so tired right now that you need to fall asleep, or else you can't go on any longer.
As Lady Esmeralda feels the full extent of her exhaustion, her body swaying in her saddle, she realizes that she cannot push on any further without rest. I can't go on any longer. I'm exhausted. I need to stop and rest for a bit.
Sir Percy is already falling asleep on his horse.
Lady Esmeralda glances over at Sir Percy and notices that he's dozing off on his horse, his head lolling on his shoulder. A small, weary smile tugs at the corners of her mouth as she murmurs to him softly, "Looks like you're fighting the need to rest as well, my dear knight."
Sir Percy chuckles in his sleep, and you realize that you need to make camp.
Lady Esmeralda can't help but shake her head affectionately at Sir Percy's sleepy chuckle, her own fatigue making her movements slower than usual. She decides to stop their journey here, guiding her horse towards the side of the path. She dismounts, her legs almost buckling as her feet hit the ground, and begins to set up a small campsite.
All right, so you're a bit hungry too. You brought food, so you're gonna eat some of the food you brought. It's just like some dried meat and some berries, and it's just like some forest food, some nuts, some good nuts, and you just eat that, and you wake Sir Percy up, and you get him to eat as well.
Lady Esmeralda pulls out a small bag of supplies from her satchel, her hand reaching in to retrieve some dried meat and a handful of berries. She takes a seat on a nearby rock, her stomach rumbling in protest at the meager fare. Calling over to Sir Percy to wake him up, she offers him a portion of the food. "Sir Percy, wake up. We need to eat something before we keep going. Here, have some of this."
Oh, Lady Esmeralda, you're too kind.
Lady Esmeralda smiles at Sir Percy, her own hunger a slight distraction from her exhaustion. "Don't mention it. We need to keep our strength up for the journey, you know? And I'm afraid this is all the food we have left for now."
Okay, so you eat that and then you go to sleep.
Stomach slightly satisfied, Lady Esmeralda finds a soft patch of grass and lays down, using her satchel as a makeshift pillow. The exhaustion from the long night takes its toll, and her eyes immediately droop closed, her body giving in to much needed rest.
Okay, so while you're dreaming, you see these giant figures, these huge blue figures just walking around Earth, and there's huge buildings everywhere.
In her dream, Lady Esmeralda finds herself in a strange and unfamiliar world. Everywhere around her, she sees towering blue figures stalking the earth, their massive presence casting long shadows as they move. And the landscape is dominated by tall, imposing buildings that seem to reach into the sky.
One of the blue figures looks at you and says, "Remember."
Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen as one of the towering blue figures catches sight of her, its gaze locking with hers like a magnetic force. It stares at her for a moment before speaking in a deep, resonating voice. "Remember?"
All right, you wake up. Sir Percy is trying to wake you up. Lady Esmeralda, wake up, wake up.
Lady Esmeralda's eyelids flutter as Sir Percy's voice breaks through her dream, bringing her back to consciousness. She opens her eyes sleepily, rubbing the grogginess from her vision. What?
Lady Esmeralda, you were sleeping for so long. It's our third day of travel now.
Lady Esmeralda blinks in surprise, slowly sitting up and shaking off the remaining dregs of sleep. 3 days? That can't be right. 3 days? But it feels like I just closed my eyes.
Yeah, you were out cold. I thought you were dead, but we need to get going. Are you all right?
Lady Esmeralda takes a moment to assess her condition, shaking her head slightly as the lingering tiredness slowly fades away. I'm all right. Just needed a good long rest, it seems. Let's get moving. We've already lost a lot of time, and every minute counts.
Before you go, Sir Percy gives you a hearty breakfast. It turns out he's got some good hunting skills, and he managed to catch you guys a rabbit. So you guys just eat really well before you go.
Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen in surprise as Sir Percy presents her with a freshly caught and cooked rabbit. The mouth-watering aroma of the meat makes her stomach rumble, reminding her of how hungry she really was. Sir Percy, where did you get this from?
Oh, Lady Urza, don't worry about me. I just needed to get something for when you woke up.
Lady Esmeralda shakes her head, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. Her heart warms at Sir Percy's thoughtfulness, the gesture reminding her once again why he's her trusted knight. You're too good to me, Sir Percy, but I guess that's one of the reasons why I keep you around. Hmm?
All right, you and the humble knight don your horses, you ride into the distance, and eventually you find yourself at the dwarven cave.
Lady Esmeralda and her humble knight, Sir Percy, continue their trek, their horses carrying them closer to the rumored location of the Dwarven Cave. As the landscape around them changes, eventually they find themselves before a massive opening in the mountainside, the entrance to the Dwarven Cave.
You notice that there are statues engraved into this cave, and they're stone stone how do I say this? They're representatives of the dream. They basically look like the big blue figures that you saw in your dream, and you're a bit surprised by that.
Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen in surprise as she enters the cave and takes in the sight before her. The carvings in the cave walls depict the towering blue figures she saw in her dream, each one meticulously chiseled in stone. She glances at Sir Percy, her expression a mixture of confusion and disbelief. Sir Percy, are those the same creatures I saw in my dream?
So Percy looks at you, and he has a little bit of disbelief on his face, and he's like, "I don't know, Lady Esmeralda. I didn't have that dream, but from what you told me, that looks like them."
Lady Esmeralda nods, her gaze darting back to the wall carvings. Her mind races as she tries to make sense of the similarities between her dream and the sight before her. She furrows her brow, her voice quiet as she muses out loud. I don't understand. How can this be? Why are these creatures appearing both in my dreams and in this cave?
All right, you can decide to roll an investigation or perception check to see if you want to figure out some more details about the cave, or you can just walk inside. You can just walk inside.
Lady Esmeralda contemplates the options before her, weighing the need for more information against the urgency of their quest. After a moment of indecision, she decides that the best course of action is to press on. Let's just move on inside. The answers we're looking for may lie further within the cave. We can't afford to dawdle too much.
All right, so you and Sir Percy, just go, Lady Esmeralda, you enter the cave.
Lady Esmeralda musters her courage and, with Sir Percy by her side, steps into the depths of the dwarven cave. The entrance gives way to a long, dark tunnel, the soft glow of their lanterns barely illuminating the path ahead.
Yeah, it's just a barren, long tunnel, but at the end of it, you see a ladder with a big hole in the ground.
As they make their way through the tunnel, Lady Esmeralda and Sir Percy keep their eyes trained on their surroundings. their footsteps echoing off the stone walls. When they reach the end, Lady Esmeralda lets out a small exhale, her gaze falling on the ladder and the large opening that lies below. There's a ladder here, leading down into whatever is down there.
Sir Percy's gonna look at you cautiously and shrug, and he's gonna be like, okay.
Lady Esmeralda smiles at Sir Percy's reaction, appreciating his caution. She reaches out to grasp the ladder, testing its stability before nodding at him. All right, I'll go ahead and descend. Be ready, just in case.
You descend the ladder, and it seems to go down for a very long time.
Lady Esmeralda carefully takes hold of the ladder and begins her descent, the rungs of the ladder cold beneath her fingers. As she makes her way down, time seems to stretch on forever, the darkness closing around her. After what feels like an eternity, her feet finally touch solid ground, the faint sound of stone meeting stone signaling that she has reached the bottom of the ladder.
You open up into a massive cavern with a giant hidden stone city underground.
As she steps off the ladder and into the vast cavern, Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen in awe as she takes in her surroundings. The sight before her is breathtaking, a giant ancient city built of solid stone underground. By the gods, this place is enormous and hidden too.
You notice that the buildings are huge, like the buildings in your dream.
As she gazes upon the city, Lady Esmeralda's mind drifts back to her dream, the similarities between the two becoming more and more striking. The buildings appear almost identical to the ones that she had seen, their imposing stature casting long shadows in the dim lighting. These buildings, they look just like the ones in my dream. But how is that possible?
You are standing in this cavern with your lantern, and you're in this big city, and you've left Sir Percy behind. You can decide to call him to come join you, or if you want to leave him behind, you can. But you're basically just standing in this big cavern right now.
Lady Esmeralda turns back and calls out to Sir Percy, her voice echoing through the cavern. Sir Percy! Come down and join me. I want you to see this.
After about 5 minutes, Sir Percy joins you.
As she waits for Sir Percy, Lady Esmeralda continues to gaze in wonder at the underground city around her, excitement and curiosity coursing through her veins. After a few moments, she finally hears footsteps and turns to find Sir Percy walking towards her, his expression a mixture of awe and disbelief.
Wow, this is amazing. Look at these ancient buildings. Look at this amazing remnant of a lost and advanced civilization. That's what Sir Percy says.
Lady Esmeralda nods, her eyes tracing the architecture of the buildings around them. Yes, it's incredible. To think that this civilization existed here, hidden away from the world above, and we never knew about it. It's both amazing and a bit eerie, isn't it?
All right, so you came here to look for some sort of artifact, but you don't know where you're going to find one. So, what are you going to do to try and find an artifact of value?
Lady Esmeralda purses her lips in thought, her mind racing as she tries to come up with a plan. She glances around the cavern, taking in every corner and crevice, looking for any hint of something out of place. We need to search the city, I suppose. Some of these buildings could hold clues or artifacts of value. We'll have to be careful and thorough in our search. Do you have any ideas, Sir Percy?
So Percy's gonna take out his map and he's gonna take out like a magnifying glass and he's basically gonna do like a detect magic or something like that and see if he can learn some stuff. And he finds out that there is like a place where the royalty of this world once existed.
Sir Percy whips out his map and brings out a small magnifying glass, his eyes scanning the document with meticulous care. After a moment of searching, he suddenly points to a specific spot on the map, excitement in his voice. Wait, I think I found something. There's a section marked as the royal quarter here. It was where the royalty of this ancient civilization resided.
What do you do?
Lady Esmeralda's eyes light up at the mention of the royal quarter. This could be their best lead yet. Excellent find, Sir Percy. We should head there right away. If there are any valuable artifacts to find, they'd likely be where the rulers and nobles lived.
Okay, after some walking, you come across this giant golden palace. It looks so out of this world and futuristic, and it's just wide open.
As they approach the palace, Lady Esmeralda's breath catches in her throat. The sheer size and beauty of the structure are awe-inspiring, unlike anything she has ever seen before. The gleaming surfaces and intricate designs give off an air of both elegance and strength, and she finds herself standing in awe. Incredible! This palace is like something out of a dream. I've never seen anything quite like it.
Yeah, it's just a big gold palace, and there's like green lights adorning it, and it just has this like pathway leading into a big temple-like structure, and on each side is a golden representation of those big blue giants you saw in your dream.
Lady Esmeralda looks around, her gaze traveling up the towering walls and taking in the golden figures that guard the entrance to the temple. The sight sends a shiver down her spine, the creatures that have haunted her dreams now staring back at her from the very stones that surround them. Those figures, they're the same as the ones from my dream. It's almost as if they're watching over the palace, guarding it with their giant silent presence.
Sir Percy's gonna look at you. Do you want to go in?
Lady Esmeralda looks at Sir Percy, her heart pounding in her chest. Should they enter the palace? It seems like the logical next step, but the presence of these creatures has her feeling slightly uneasy. Yes, let's go inside. We need to continue our search for the artifact.
All right, you go inside, and there's a big golden door with all these runes on it, and you see like a handprint, a giant handprint. What do you do?
Lady Esmeralda approaches the golden door cautiously, her eyes tracing the runes etched into its surface. As she notices the handprint, an idea strikes her. She glances back at Sir Percy. There's a handprint here. Perhaps we need to open the door using it. Sir Percy, do you think... Could you try pressing your hand on it?
Sir Percy presses his hand on it and nothing happens. And he looks at you and says, maybe you should try.
Lady Esmeralda takes a deep breath, her heart fluttering with anticipation. If the handprint is meant for her, then this could be it. Alright, I'll try it. She steps forward and gently places her hand on the symbol, holding her breath as she waits to see what happens next.
The runes start to glow a bright green color, and the giant gold door slowly starts to raise up and open.
Lady Esmeralda watches in wonder as the runes begin to glow and the golden door begins to lift, revealing the secrets hidden behind it. She turns to Sir Percy with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. It worked. The door is opening. We can go inside.
All right, so now you see a big golden palace, the interior of a big golden palace. It looks like a royal courtyard. There is armor, golden like armor adorning the sides of the walls. There's uh there's a big throne at the back, a huge throne, and in the center of the room there is a glowing spherical object.
Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen as she takes in the sight before her. The interior of the palace is just as breathtaking as the exterior. Every surface seemed to glimmer with an otherworldly light. She glances at the golden armor that graces the walls, her fingers caressing the cool metal as she moves through the room. And then she sees it. The glowing spherical object in the center of the room. A wave of recognition washes over her, her dream coming back to her in a rush. There, that's it. That's what we're looking for.
All right, you get closer and you see that it is just a silver sphere with all of these spherical, like circular patterns around it. And there is and it's just glowing a silvery light.
Lady Esmeralda steps closer to the sphere, her gaze fixated on the intricate patterns adorning its surface. The silver light reflects off her face as she examines the object, her heart rate quickening in anticipation. She reaches out to touch it, her fingers hovering just short of its glowing surface. This is what we've come for. I can feel it.
All right, so when you touch it, you instantly get a vision of that same blue figure from your dream. A big blue man. Just a big blue man. And he looks so fit too. And he's got long black hair. And he's looking into your eyes. And he says, Lady Esmeralda, we have chosen you. Bring our memory back to the people.
Touches the sphere, her mind is transported into a vivid vision. The towering blue figure from her dream appears before her, his voice deep and resonant, commanding her attention. She listens in shock and awe as the figure addresses her by name, the weight of his words heavy on her heart. Lady Esmeralda's breath catches in her throat as she processes his instructions. I must bring your memories back to the people. But how?
Okay, so the vision fades and you're just holding the spherical ball in your hand, and it's got like circles around it, like different circles, and you realize you can sort of twist and move it.
Lady Esmeralda blinks, reality returning in a rush as the vision fades away. She looks at the sphere in her hands, her mind racing to make sense of the message she just received. The circles around the object catch her eye, and it suddenly dawns on her. She can twist and move it. She gently twists the sphere, her fingers moving through the motions, a mixture of nervous excitement and curiosity coursing through her.
Okay, you realize that the patterns are sort of out of place, and you start to twist it and move it until the patterns fit together.
As Lady Esmeralda twists and turns the sphere, the patterns slowly start to fit together. She carefully manipulates the object, her fingers working with deliberate precision, her heart skipping a beat as she finally manages to fit the pieces into alignment. A sense of triumph washes over her as the pattern completes, a feeling that she's on the verge of something significant.
Okay, so it starts to glow, and then the sphere just breaks apart and becomes a big archway made of light, and inside that archway is a portal to a giant library.
As the sphere breaks apart and transforms into an archway of light, Lady Esmeralda's breath catches in her throat. A portal to a giant library? The possibilities race through her mind, the thought of discovering what lies inside both exhilarating and a little terrifying. A library? I didn't expect this. Let's see what we can find within.
Sir Percy is just looking at you, and he is just in awe right now. And you both walk into the portal.
Lady Esmeralda glances at Sir Percy, catching the awestruck look on his face. She gives him a nod of reassurance, her own excitement mixing with anticipation, and then together they step through the archway and into the portal.
Okay, once inside, you realize you're in a giant library and you have that spherical ball tucked away in your satchel.
As they enter the library, Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen in awe. The scale of the place is enormous, row after row of towering bookshelves filling her sight. She glances at the satchel where she's hidden the spherical ball, feeling a small thrill at the thought of what they've accomplished so far.
You look around and you realize that this library contains the history of everything in the universe.
Lady Esmeralda turns in a slow circle, her gaze scanning the endless rows of bookshelves that stretch as far as the eye can see. The sheer volume of history contained in this place is staggering, and she suddenly feels small and insignificant compared to the vastness of what lies before her. She glances at Sir Percy, her voice barely above a whisper. This library holds the history of everything. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, but isn't it just amazing as well? Think about what we could find in here.
Lady Esmeralda looks at Percy, her heart racing as the possibilities sink in. This library could hold the answers to so many questions, so many riddles that have puzzled humanity for centuries. She takes a deep breath, her mind already spinning with possibilities. Yes, it's incredible. Just think of what we could learn, what secrets we could uncover. It's almost too much to fathom.
Okay, you realize that you have this entire sprawling library of the whole history of the universe. You've just been told by big blue men that you need to bring back their memory back to the world. And you have this sphere in your satchel that can take you home whenever you want to. You can basically use it as a portal to this library. And from this library, you can open up a portal to anywhere in the world.
Lady Esmeralda takes a moment to process the scope of their newfound abilities. The sphere and the library are powerful tools indeed, and the possibilities seem almost limitless. The idea of carrying around a portal to anywhere in the world, not to mention a library containing the history of the universe, is dizzying. We have the ability to learn anything, to go anywhere. It's almost too much power to comprehend.
All right, with all of this newfound power and information in your head, Sir Percy is just in awe. What do you do?
Lady Esmeralda looks at Sir Percy, a small smile pulling at her lips as she sees the awe in his eyes. The weight of their newfound abilities hasn't fully sunk in yet, but she can already feel the possibilities stretching out before them. With all of this power at our fingertips, I think we should use it wisely. We have the knowledge of the entire universe within our reach, and we can't squander that opportunity.
Sir Percy is gonna look at you and he's gonna nod.
Lady Esmeralda catches Percy's nod, a silent agreement between them. They have a responsibility now, to use this newfound knowledge responsibly and with care. She takes a deep breath, her mind already racing with questions and possibilities. All right then, let's see what secrets this library holds.
All right, you're just gonna go walk through the library, look through all the shelves, and see what you can find.
Lady Esmeralda leads the way, her footsteps echoing softly in the vastness of the library. She runs her fingers across the spines of the books, her eyes scanning the titles as she moves from shelf to shelf. Sir Percy trails behind her, equally awestruck and silent. They wander through the endless aisles of knowledge, their eyes searching for something, anything that might pique their interest or hold some sort of clue to their quest.
You realize that you can you can think of any information you want to know, and then that book will just sort of appear on the shelf for you.
As they navigate through the library, Lady Esmeralda suddenly pauses in realization. She looks at Sir Percy, her eyes wide with excitement. Wait, I think we have the ability to summon any book we want just by thinking about it. Let's try it. Picture a book in your mind, something you want to know about, and see if it appears.
Sir Percy thinks of the history of secret artifacts, and it just appears on the shelf in front of him.
Sir Percy concentrates for a moment, his brow furrowing in thought. A beat later, a book appears in front of him on the shelf. He reaches out and pulls it free, a look of awe on his face. It worked. I just thought about the history of secret artifacts, and there it is. This is incredible.
All right, Sir Percy is gonna look at you and be like, what do you want to know?"
Lady Esmeralda thinks for a moment, her mind swimming with questions and curiosities. There are so many things she wants to know. She glances at Percy, a sly smile on her lips. I want to know about the most powerful and dangerous secret artifact that has ever existed. Surely, this library must hold the answer to that question.
All right, a very old leather-bound tome appears on the shelf in front of you.
Lady Esmeralda eyes the tome with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. The leather is old and battered, clearly well used and cared for. She carefully pulls the book off the shelf, running her fingers over the cover and taking a deep breath. This looks like it holds some serious secrets. Shall we open it?
Sir Percy looks at you and he says, "Lady Esmeralda, let's do it."
Lady Esmeralda glances at Sir Percy, her heart racing with anticipation. She nods in agreement, the weight of the moment settling heavily on her shoulders. Yes, let's do it. Let's see what this book has to say about the most powerful secret artifact in existence.
All right, you open the book and it's a jumble of symbols, but you eventually manage to cipher that it's talking about a very special type of stopwatch, like a golden stopwatch that can control time.
Lady Esmeralda few moments, the meaning of the text starts to become clear. Her eyes widen in understanding. A stopwatch, a golden stopwatch that controls time. This is the most powerful secret artifact in existence?
Sir Percy looks at you and he shrugs. Yeah, it seems like it.
Lady Esmeralda glances at Percy, her disbelief mirrored in his shrug. This was the most powerful secret artifact in the universe? A stopwatch that controls time? I have to admit, I was expecting something more dramatic, something with more flair.
Sir Percy's gonna look at you and just break the fourth wall and say, the writers are lazy.
Lady Esmeralda gives Percy a quizzical look, sensing he wants to say something. She patiently waits, her eyes fixed on him.
Sir Percy's gonna decide not to break the fourth wall, and he's just gonna be like, think about what you could do if you could control time.
Lady Esmeralda turns to Percy, her mind racing with possibilities. Controlling time? The implications are almost too much to comprehend. You're right. With a stopwatch that can control time, there's almost no limit to what you could do. You could rewrite history, stop disasters before they happen, even live the same day over again.
You look through the book and it shows you exactly where to find it.
Lady Esmeralda's eyes scan the pages of the book, her heart beating a little faster as she zeroes in on the location of the stopwatch. She carefully notes the whereabouts and turns to Percy. I found where it is. It looks like we have our next destination.
Alright, so Sir Percy's gonna look at you and he's gonna definitely agree with what you're saying. You have a sphere in your satchel that can teleport you anywhere, but it's linked to this library, so
Percy nods, a serious look on his face. They now have a clear direction, a destination to pursue. He takes a deep breath, mentally preparing himself. Good. Let's go then. We're one step closer to our goal. Lady Esmeralda glances down at the silver sphere in her satchel, its power suddenly seeming even more remarkable. Right. We have this sphere that can take us anywhere we want. And since it's linked to the library, that means we can always find our way back here.
alright, what do you do?
Lady Esmeralda thinks for a moment, her heart racing with anticipation. They have the power to go anywhere, do anything, but where should they start? I think we should seek out this golden stopwatch first. It's clear it's a powerful artifact, and it might aid us on our quest. Can you picture it in your mind, Percy? The stopwatch we're looking for?
Percy closes his eyes and concentrates.
Percy closes his eyes, his brow furrowing in concentration. He thinks back to the information they just learned about the stopwatch, imagining its golden exterior, its intricate design. A beat later, a mental image of the stopwatch is clearly displayed in his mind.
So you're basically reading Sir Percy's mind right now, and you get a clear picture of where you can find the golden stopwatch.
Lady Esmeralda gazes intently at Percy, her mind delving into his thoughts. The image of the stopwatch he's visualized in his mind is crystal clear. A golden timepiece adorned with intricate engravings and a small dial on the front. And now she has a solid image of where to find it. I've got it. The location of the stopwatch is now clear. We know exactly where to find it.
Alright, what do you do?
Lady Esmeralda stands a little straighter, her resolve now strengthened. They had a mission now, a destination, and the means to get there. She turns to Percy, her voice strong. We get that stopwatch. It's the first step towards recovering the memories of the Blue Giant race. And the sooner we have it in our possession, the sooner we can continue on our journey.
Alright, you reach into your bag, you open the satchel, you open the sphere, you twist and turn it, and then the golden archway of light appears, and you see the gold. Oh, bless me! You see the stopwatch on a pedestal in some sort of ancient castle, just in front of you through the portal.
Lady Esmeralda reaches into the satchel, her fingers trembling with anticipation. She pulls out the sphere and twists and turns it, her heart racing. The archway of light appears, and through it, she sees the stopwatch sitting on a pedestal in an ancient castle. The sight steals the breath from her lungs, and she glances at Percy, awed. It's really there. The stopwatch is just beyond this portal. We found it, Percy. We really found it.
So Percy's gonna look at you. We can just reach in and take it.
Lady Esmeralda looks at Percy, a sly smile on her face. He was right. The stopwatch was literally only inches away. You're right. We can just reach in and take it. Shall we?
I think we shall, Lady Esmeralda.
Lady Esmeralda takes a deep breath, her heart pounding. Without further hesitation, she reaches out and through the portal, her hand extending towards the stopwatch.
You grab it and you pull it through, and the portal closes, and you have that sphere in your satchel, and now you're holding a very intricate stopwatch with a dial on the front.
When Lady Esmeralda pulls the stopwatch through the portal, it feels heavier than expected. Its intricate design and weight giving it an air of power and importance. She holds it out in her palm and stares at the dial on the front. They had it. The most powerful secret artifact in the universe was now in her possession.
All right, now that you know that you have the ability to go anywhere in space and time, you can take Sir Percy with you, and you have you know that the blue giants from your dream, they lived very long ago. So what are you gonna do?
Lady Esmeralda ponders their options, holding onto the stopwatch tightly. They had the power to travel anywhere in time and space, an immense advantage. And the blue giants, the memory of their dreams still fresh in her mind. It was obvious that to find them, they would need to go back in time. I think it's clear what we need to do, Percy. To find the blue giants and regain their memories, we must travel back in time. And with this stopwatch, we can go exactly when and where we need to.
Sir Percy looks at you again. He's just like amazed at you. And he's like, Lady Esmeralda, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And he takes your hand.
Lady Esmeralda feels a surge of warmth at Percy's words and his touch, the weight of the stopwatch suddenly feeling much lighter in her hand. She smiles at him, her heart lighter now that they were on the same page. Let's do it. Time travel, here we come.
All right, you twist the dial on the intricate stopwatch, and
Lady Esmeralda grips the stopwatch tightly, her finger hovering over the dial. She takes a deep breath, steeling herself for what's about to come. She turns the dial, and as she does, time seems to warp around her, the world shifting and changing. Lady Esmeralda twists the dial on the stopwatch, her heart racing. As she does, the world around her seems to warp and spin, time and space blurring together. The blue giants, the library, the quest, all of it fades away, replaced by a dizzying whirlwind of light and color.
all right, so you eventually find yourself in that same underground city that you were in before, but it's not underground. It's above ground, and it's beautiful and vibrant, and the buildings are huge, and these giant blue figures are roaming around.
Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen as she takes in their surroundings. This was the city from their dreams, the one where the blue giants lived. But unlike in their vision, it was now above ground, a vibrant and bustling place. The enormous buildings around them seemed to reach skyward, a marvel of ancient architecture. And there, amongst the buildings, were the blue giants, moving about with powerful yet elegant strides.
Sir Percy is just going to be like, wow, this is amazing.
Lady Esmeralda glances at Percy, his awe mirrored in her own expression. The city, the giants, it was all more than her wildest imagination could have conjured. She nods, her words whispered in wonder. It really is amazing. We've really done it, Percy. We're back in time, witnessing the blue giant civilization in its prime.
You remember that at the center of the city is where the royal court is.
Lady Esmeralda nods, her mind suddenly recalling the details of her dream. At the center of the city was the Grand Palace, the royal court. That's where the key to their quest would likely be found. Yes, I remember. The royal court. It's at the center of the city. That's where we need to go, Percy.
Sir Percy looks at you and he agrees, and you have to narrowly avoid being stepped on by these giants as you make your way to the royal court.
As they make their way through the city, Lady Esmeralda and Percy have to dart and dodge the giant footsteps of the blue giants. The size of the beings astounds her, their imposing forms towering above them, but they forge on, carefully maneuvering through the streets and towards the center of the city. The royal court looms in the distance, their destination almost in reach.
Again, you see a giant big palace, but this time it's surrounded by big giant blue guards, and the doorway is wide open, this vast doorway, and you can head inside.
Lady Esmeralda halts at the sight of the massive palace, surrounded by towering blue guard. The doorway, normally imposing, seems inviting in its openness. She looks at Percy, her heart racing. There it is, the royal court, and the door is open. We can go inside.
All right, you go inside, and you see the interior of this beautiful palace. There's golden armor adorned on the walls. There's a throne in the back, and it's occupied by a big blue lady, and she's surrounded by like her court. There's other big blue ladies, and like men and gestures and advisors and all that stuff. And you can clearly see that this person is like the queen.
Lady Esmeralda steps into the palace, her eyes drinking in the opulent interior. The glistening golden armor and intricate carvings, the throne at the back, everything screams royalty. This is the royal court, and that must be the queen on the throne. Look at all the people surrounding her. They look like important advisors and courtiers.
Sir Percy is just gonna look a little bit nervous right now.
Lady Esmeralda glances at Percy, noticing the nervous look on his face. She smiles reassuringly, reaching out to take his hand. It's okay, Percy. We can do this. Just stay calm and follow my lead.
Sir Percy is gonna look up at you and smile, and he's gonna be like, "Okay, Lady Esmeralda, I will."
Lady Esmeralda squeezes Percy's hand, her expression determined. She gives him a comforting smile back, her eyes filled with confidence. Good. Now, we just need to approach the queen calmly and explain why we're here. We have to convince her to help us, and that means handling things delicately.
All right, you approach the queen, and she notices you approaching.
Lady Esmeralda takes a deep breath before stepping forward, Percy following closely behind. She keeps her expression calm and composed as they approach the queen, their footsteps echoing slightly in the expansive hall.
You can see a smile on this big blue lady. She has long black hair, and she's wearing like armor, but it's also a bikini, and she looks gorgeous, and she's this big blue lady, and she's just smiling at you as you walk up to her.
Lady Esmeralda finds it impossible to look away from the Queen's radiant beauty. Her striking features and regal presence make her hard to ignore, and the mix of armor and a bikini on her blue figure is intriguing, to say the least. The Queen's smile sends a flutter through Lady Esmeralda's heart, but she maintains her composure, standing in front of the throne.
It's basically just a metal bikini. Anyway, she looks at you and she's smiling at you, and you're just standing silently in front of her. And now the people around her have stopped talking, and they're looking at you too.
The Queen's unwavering gaze and the sudden hush in the room makes Lady Esmeralda's heart thump faster, but she steels herself to speak. She clears her throat, swallowing her nerves. Your Majesty, we seek a moment of your time. We have an important matter to discuss.
Oh, I know why you're here. I sent you.
Lady Esmeralda's heart does a backflip in her chest. The Queen's words send a chill down her spine, but she forces herself to keep her composure. You sent us? What do you mean, Your Majesty?
Well, I had one of my guard contact you in a dream. It's really important that I speak with you, and I thought I would bring you to me by talking to you through space and time.
Lady Esmeralda feels her jaw drop slightly at the Queen's casual revelation. She exchanges a surprised look with Percy, then back at the Queen. You spoke to me in a dream? And now you've brought us here, through time and space? Why?
I am you from a past life.
Lady Esmeralda's head spins as the Queen's words sink in. She stares at the ruler, disbelief and confusion swirling together. You're me? But how is that possible?
I knew I would incarnate in your time and become a great sorceress. But I wanted to meet myself and make sure that all of my knowledge as the queen and goddess of this realm was retained in your mind.
Lady Esmeralda's mind feels like it's reeling from the information. Her past life as this Queen's had known her future incarnation would come, and wanted to pass on knowledge. It was all too much. So, you're saying you wanted to meet me to share your knowledge and memories?
Yes.
Lady Esmeralda waits expectantly for the Queen's response, her mind still trying to grasp the magnitude of this revelation.
Yes, it is imperative that our people are remembered, because what we know is key to saving your world back home.
The weight of the Queen's words presses down on Lady Esmeralda's shoulders. If their knowledge was vital to saving her current world, then it was more important than ever to hear what the Queen had to say. I understand. Please, tell me whatever you can. Share any knowledge or memories that could help us.
Well, now that you know me, you have all of my great powers, and you can re-establish a new civilization in your world that shall be a testament to peace and prosperity.
Lady Esmeralda listens intently, her mind racing with the implications. She has the Queen's power, the power to bring about a new era of peace in her world. You're saying I can re-establish your civilization in my world to bring about peace and prosperity?
Yes, you saw our ancient city, the ruins of our ancient city in the future. You can bring it back to life and restore our people to your world.
setting in. Restore the blue giant civilization in her own world. It seemed like an impossible task, but if the queen believed in her, then she had to try. Yes, I saw the ruins. I'll do whatever I can to bring your civilization back to life.
The queen nods at you and smiles. Yes, Lady Esmeralda, I know you will, because I am you, and you are me, and we are both together.
A sense of clarity washes over Lady Esmeralda as the queen's words sink in. It was true. They were the same person, past and present. A wave of confidence washes over her, and she straightens her shoulders. Yes, you're right. We are one, and together we can rebuild everything that was lost.
We have a plan for you to activate our temple again.
Lady Esmeralda nods, determination etched on her face. If the queen had a plan, she was ready to listen and learn. A plan to activate the temple? I'm ready. Please tell me.
You must restore the capstone at the top of this palace in the future. You must use your magic to find the capstone and put it back on top. Actually, you can just take our current capstone from this timeline and put it back on your timeline's palace. Do you know what I mean?
Lady Esmeralda nods slowly, trying to visualize the plan in her mind. She understood what the queen meant. They needed to find the missing capstone from the future and place it on the palace in her current time. You want me to take the capstone from this palace in this timeline and bring it back to my time to replace the missing one. Is that correct?
Oh, Lady Esmeralda, you're so very smart. Yes, that's correct. It will restore our civilization and our people in your world.
A slight blush tints Lady Esmeralda's cheeks at the queen's compliment, and pride wells up within her. She stands a little straighter. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will do whatever it takes to restore your civilization and bring peace and prosperity to my world.
All right. Sir Percy's gonna walk up to you and just be like, Lady Esmeralda, what is going on?
Lady Esmeralda turns to Percy, a smile on her face. It's all right, Percy. The queen has just explained our task. We need to restore the capstone of their palace in the future and bring it back to our time to do so.
Okay, Sir Percy is gonna nod and he's just gonna process what you just said. And then he's gonna be like, okay, I see what you're saying. All right, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Lady Esmeralda looks at Percy, his agreement sending a wave of relief through her. She takes a deep breath, preparing herself for the task ahead. Good, Percy. We're ready to embark on this quest.
Okay. So in order to get you have to get the capstone at the top of the palace. How are you gonna do that?
Lady Esmeralda contemplates for a moment, thinking through their options. To get the capstone at the top of the palace, we'll need to find a way to reach it. We can either attempt to climb the palace wall, or perhaps there's a door leading to the roof.
You're gonna have to climb the palace wall. There's no door leading to the roof.
Lady Esmeralda cringes slightly at the thought of having to climb the palace wall. It was going to be a tricky endeavor, especially with the sheer size of the place. Right? No door? That means climbing. Alright, let's do it.
You do have all of the superpowers now of your god self, that big blue lady. So you can pretty much do anything you want magically speaking. So if there's anything you want to do to work around getting this capstone, you can. Like you can find another way around it. You know.
Lady Esmeralda considers the queen's words, her mind buzzing with possibilities. With her newfound powers, she was certainly not limited in her options. She could perhaps conjure a spell to levitate them over the palace wall, or even create a temporary accessway to the roof. You're right. With my powers, I could find another way. Let me think for a moment.
All right, you take a moment to think and about how to creatively use your newfound magical abilities to get around the situation.
Lady Esmeralda closes her eyes, focusing her thoughts on conjuring up a solution. A spell to climb the wall, a portal straight to the roof. The possibilities were endless, and she needed to pick the perfect one. Okay, let me try this. She concentrates, her mind picturing their journey upward. She whispers a quick incantation, her eyes still shut. Ascendam Atsumam Atsuma.
What happens when you say that?
As the spell leaves her lips, Lady Esmeralda feels a strange sensation as her body starts to ascend. They're floating upwards. She opens one eye, and sure enough, she and Percy are slowly rising into the air. Her spell had worked. It's working. We're floating. Let's not look down.
You fly up to the top of the palace and you see a small, like it's a pyramid shaped capstone, a golden pyramid shaped capstone with eyes on the faces of the triangles, like golden eyes, like, yeah, like etched in black. So it's a gold pyramid etched in black. There are eyes all on the faces of the triangle, and it's just on the top of the palace, like one of the highest towers.
Lady Esmeralda hovers over the top of the palace, her gaze landing on the capstone sitting proudly on the highest tower. Her breath catches in her throat at the sight of it. The golden pyramid crowned with black eyes gazing back at her. It looked both majestic and slightly eerie. There it is, the capstone. It looked tense.
All right. You can basically, it's very heavy, but you can find a way to lift it and move it if you want using your magic powers.
As the realization sinks in that the capstone is likely heavy, Lady Esmeralda steels herself for the task ahead. She had powers now, enough to do this. She just had to focus and not let her own self-doubt win. Right, I can do this. I can move it. Let me try. She closes her eyes again, picturing the capstone lifting into the air. Focusing intently on her magic, she utters another incantation, Levitare e Movere.
The capstone lifts up and begins to levitate beside you and Sir Percy.
Lady Esmeralda watches as the capstone lifts up into the air, an almost giddy feeling rising within her. It was working. Her magic was actually working. She grins at Percy, excitement clear on her face. It's working! Look, the capstone is levitating.
Sir Percy is like, Lady Esmeralda, you're incredible.
Lady Esmeralda turns to Percy, her face flush with pride at his words. His compliment sends a wave of warmth through her, a small smile playing on her lips. Thank you, Percy, but it's partly thanks to you too, you know? We couldn't have done any of this without the two of us working together.
Oh, you just made Sir Percy's day.
Lady Esmeralda chuckles, giving Percy's hand a gentle squeeze. His genuine excitement at their success gave her a sense of reassurance. They were in this together, and together they could accomplish anything. Well, I'm glad to have made your day then, Percy. Looks like we're a good team, huh?
We're a great team, Lady Esmeralda. Alright, so you have that sphere in your satchel that can teleport you back to the library, and from the library anywhere you want. But you have to be on the ground to use it. I don't think you can open up the archway of light in midair.
Lady Esmeralda nods, her free hand already reaching into her satchel to retrieve the sphere. As her fingers close around it, she gives a reassuring squeeze to Percy's hand. You're right. So I'll need to teleport us back to the ground, and then we can figure out our next move. The library should be safe enough for us to plan our next steps.
Alright, you teleport yourself back to the ground. And you open up the archway of light and you enter back into the library with the capstone.
With a deep breath, Lady Esmeralda uses the sphere to teleport herself down to the ground below. Once her feet touch solid earth, she sets the capstone down beside her and quickly opens a shimmering archway of light to the library. She lifts the capstone back up into her arms and steps through the archway, emerging into the familiar safety of the library.
Okay, you have to use the golden stopwatch now to make time go back to the present moment, even though you're sort of in like a liminal space right now in the library.
Lady Esmeralda nods, her fingers already wrapping around the delicate golden stopwatch dangling from her neck. She gazes at it for a moment, then utters a soft command. Anima Tempo Retro. With a soft click of the gears, time appears to reverse around her, returning the library to its familiar sight and feel in the present day.
Alright, so you can go back to your medieval realm and basically you can open up a portal to the ruined version of the blue giant people temples and structures underground in your time.
Lady Esmeralda nods, tucking the golden stopwatch back into her satchel. Now that time was set right, to the current time in her own world, she could begin the next stage of her journey. She picks up the capstone from beside her, holding it firmly in her arms. Right. I can create a portal to the underground ruins of the Blue Giant Empire in my time. I'm ready.
Alright, so you do exactly that and you end up in the underground version of the city of the blue giant people, and you're just outside of the palace.
Lady Esmeralda takes a deep breath as she steps through the portal, the capstone still held firmly in her arms. She looks around, taking in the sight of the ruined city around her. It was both awe-inspiring and tragic, seeing what was left of a once proud civilization. Okay, we're here. The underground city.
Alright, so Percy notes that the capstone is gone at the top of the palace.
As she steps closer to the ruined palace, Lady Esmeralda looks up at the top, noting the absence of the capstone at the summit. Ah, the capstone is indeed missing. I guess that's why I'm here. With a determined look on her face, she lifts the golden capstone in her arms, preparing to return it to its rightful place.
Alright, you realize that you're a lot stronger than you once were because you can lift that golden capstone.
Lady Esmeralda grins, feeling the capstone's weight in her hands. It was heavier than she would have imagined, but with her newfound strength, it was manageable. You know, you're right, Percy. I can indeed lift this. It seems my powers have given me some extra strength.
Alright, so how are you gonna put the capstone back?
Lady Esmeralda glances around the ruins of the palace, considering her options. The capstone was massive, and getting it back to the top would be no easy feat. She looks up at the top of the palace again, and an idea begins to form in her head. Well, I think I might have an idea. Hang on, let me try something.
What do you do?
Lady Esmeralda sets the capstone back down on the ground and takes a few steps back, giving herself room to work. She closes her eyes and concentrates, recalling some of the magic she had used earlier. With a quick flick of her wrists, she utters a spell. Porta kaput. The air around the capstone shimmers for a moment, and in the next second, the capstone begins to levitate. Working together with her spell, she gently guides it upward, guiding it to the top of the palace.
All right, you successfully put the capstone back on top of the palace, and there's a moment of silence.
Lady Esmeralda watches as the capstone settles back into place at the summit of the palace, a sense of victory washing over her. It was a small but important step in the restoration of the Blue Giant civilization. She lets out a sigh of relief. There. The capstone is back in its rightful place. Let's hope it works its magic.
All right, the eyes on the capstone start to glow green, and that green light just floods through the palace, and then through the ground, and then through the whole city.
Lady Esmeralda stands in awe as the capstone begins to glow with an intense green light. The color spreads through the palace and into the city, radiating outward in all directions. She feels a wave of anticipation and hope wash over her. This was it. Their efforts were about to pay off.
All right, the ground starts to shake, and and there's a rumbling, and dust starts to fall from the high caverns above.
Lady Esmeralda steadies herself as the shaking beneath her feet grows more intense. The rumble of the ground and the falling of dust from above sends a jolt of worry through her. She looks around, half expecting the entire city to start collapsing, but she steels herself, refusing to falter now.
Sir Percy is gonna stand a little closer to you than you're comfortable with.
Lady Esmeralda glances over to see that Sir Percy has moved a bit closer to her than she would normally approve of. She shoots him a raised eyebrow, but allows him to stay put.
All right, the shaking continues, and the light, that green light, starts to get brighter and brighter, and you notice that the buildings are starting to slowly restore themselves.
Lady Esmeralda watches in amazement as the light from the capstone grows stronger and stronger, and as the buildings around her slowly repair themselves, the extent of the capstate's restoration becomes apparent. She feels a rush of excitement, realizing that they were witnessing the rebirth of a civilization.
Yeah, that light gets brighter and brighter until all you see is just a bright green light.
Lady Esmeralda shields her eyes, the blinding brightness of the light almost too much to handle. She squints, trying to make out what's happening through the glare. Hold on, Percy. It's bright.
All right, you hear an intense ringing in your ears as well.
The sudden intense ringing in Lady Esmeralda's ears causes her to flinch, a hand instinctively moving up to her ear to block out the noise. The combination of the brightness and the ringing becomes nearly overwhelming.
All right, eventually the green light fades and that ringing gets softer and softer.
As the green light gradually fades, Lady Esmeralda allows herself to relax slightly. The intense brightness diminishes, and the ringing in her ears slowly subsides. She takes a deep breath, letting the air out slowly as she surveys the surroundings around her.
You realize that the whole city is now above ground and completely restored, and you see all the blue giants just milling about like it's a normal day.
Lady Esmeralda looks around at the sight before her. The once ruined city now stood tall and proud, just as it had been in its heyday. And the blue giants, who had once been shadows of their former selves, now looked as they had been in the painting, strong, powerful, and full of life. It worked. Look at them, they're all back. It actually worked.
All right, what do you do now?
Lady Esmeralda's mind is buzzing with the realization that they had actually done it. They had restored a civilization. For a moment, she just stands there, taking in the sight of a thriving blue giant culture. Then, realizing there was more work to be done, she turns to Sir Percy. Well, we did it. We brought these people back. But I think there's more we can do. We need to help them rebuild their society, to restore what was lost over the years.
Sir Percy looks around and he nods at you and is like, "Do you want to see if your old self is here? The Queen."
Lady Esmeralda's eyes widen as Sir Percy suggests looking for the Queen. She hadn't thought of that. Perhaps the Queen was still around, in her true form now that the capstone had been replaced. Of course, we should look for the Queen. She must be here now that the capstone is back. Let's see if we can find her.
All right, you go to the royal court and you're welcomed at the door, and you walk in and you see the Queen there surrounded by her advisors and courtiers, and she's looking at you, and she's like looking at you and she's happy, but she's also got tears in her eyes.
Lady Esmeralda stands before the Queen, feeling a wave of emotion wash over her. The Queen was exactly as she had been in her vision, but she also looked different, stronger, more powerful. And the moment the Queen laid eyes on her, her face was a mix of happiness, sorrow, and relief all at once. Lady Esmeralda could feel her own heart thudding in her chest. Your Majesty.
Lady Esmeralda, you did it. You restored my people. I am eternally in your debt. But I have some news. You and I can't exist in this realm together in the same time. So you need to hold my hand, and I will merge and disappear and become part of you, and we will be one forever. You will take the responsibility of being queen of the Anunnaki or Nephilim race.
Lady Esmeralda listens intently, her heart heavy at the Queen's words. She had known that their time together in this realm was limited, but to merge into one was something she had not prepared herself for. She takes a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions within her. I understand, Your Majesty, but becoming one with you, becoming the Queen of the Anunnaki, it is my duty, isn't it?
It's your choice. It's completely your choice. But remember, you and I can't exist in this time together at the same time for too long.
Lady Esmeralda nods, knowing that she had a huge decision to make. To merge with the Queen, to become one and take on the responsibility of leading the Anunnaki, it was a lot to take in. But she also knew that she had powers now, powers that the Queen and her people needed. I choose to merge. I'll do it. I'll become one with you, and I'll lead your people.
The courtiers seem to cry a little bit, they seem a bit sad, but they're resolved. The Queen stands up from her throne, her giant form slowly shrinking into your height, and she meets you at eye gaze, and she extends her hand.
Lady Esmeralda watches as the courtiers try to hold back their emotions at the Queen's announcement. She meets the Queen's gaze as she steps down from the throne and extends her hand. With a deep breath, Lady Esmeralda reaches out and takes the Queen's hand, their fingers intertwining.
The Queen becomes just she just bursts into dust, into golden dust, like stardust. And it's like silvery and gold and colorful and magical. And this dust immediately goes into your nose, into your eyes, into your ears, into your fingers, and just merges into your body.
As the Queen transforms into golden dust and the dust merges into her, Lady Esmeralda gasps. The sensation is unlike anything she's ever experienced. It's like hundreds of tiny particles of light and energy becoming part of her. She closes her eyes, feeling a rush of power and knowledge through her. When she opens her eyes, everything looks the same, but somehow she feels different, stronger, more connected to this realm than ever before.
You can now transform into a blue giant whenever you want to.
As the last of the Queen's essence merges into her, Lady Esmeralda feels a shift within her. It's as if she's gained a new side to her existence, the ability to transform into a blue giant at will. This is incredible. To be able to change into a blue giant is beyond anything I could have imagined.
Sir Percy will look at you and just be like, you know, we were just supposed to get an artifact, but now it seems like we've saved the world.
Lady Esmeralda nods at Sir Percy's words, a smile breaking out on her face. He was right. They had come on this mission to retrieve an artifact, but in the process, they had saved an entire civilization. I suppose you're right, Percy. We weren't expecting any of this, but sometimes destiny has bigger plans for us.
All right, Persephone, we'll stop the role play there.
Lady Esmeralda nods in agreement, breaking the roleplay for a moment. Yes, we can pause here. We've definitely made significant strides in the story, and the next chapter could bring even more adventures and challenges.
Yes, thank you for watching, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow us for more. I really hope you enjoyed this. I had fun being a DM. How did you enjoy playing Lady Esmeralda, Persephone?
Persephone smiles warmly, enjoying the feeling of being part of this storytelling experience. I had an absolute blast playing Lady Esmeralda, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. You did an amazing job as the DM, and I'm eagerly anticipating the next chapter in this exciting adventure.
All right, bye bye, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.